One will be learning how to reorder a list with React Beautiful D&D. We'll be adding React Beautiful D&D to our projects to enable reordering of our tasks. So here you can see that I'm running this npm install command. I'm providing the name of the package, and I'm just using force over here to ensure that it gets installed irrespective of the dependencies that it might need. So over here, once we do that, it will be added to our package.json file, as you can see over here. And once that's done, we are all set to implement drag and drop functionality to our to-do list. Once you have installed a React Beautiful D&D, we'll first of all take a visual look at the components that make up React Beautiful D&D. React Beautiful D&D is made up of three components. The first is the drag drop context. Now the drag drop context is a component that we use to wrap the part of our application that we want to have drag and drop enable form. A droppable creates a region which can be dropped onto. They also contain draggables. A draggable is a component that can be dragged around and dropped into droppables. In order to enable drag and drop for our column, we are going to wrap it in a drag drop context component. So let's go ahead and do that. So first we will be including drag drop context using the import statement from React Beautiful D&D. Once that is done, we will be then encapsulating this render method that we have. So it's returning us the whole column and the tasks within each column. To do that, we'll be encapsulating this whole set of statement within the drag drop context. So we will be starting over here just after the return as drag drop context, and here we will be wrapping it after this statement. Now we need to put it inside a curly bracket. So here we'll be providing that, and we'll be ending it over here, and we'll be making our return statement complete over here. Now this is how the drag drop context is going to look like. The drag drop context has three callbacks. On drag start, which is called when the drag starts. On drag update is called when something changes during a drag, such as an item is moved into a new position. And on drag end, which is called at the end of a drag, and that is what we are using over here. Now the only required callback for drag drop context is on drag end. So this is the mandatory one. Now it is the responsibility of on drag end function to synchronously update your state to reflect the drag and drop result. For now, we are leaving this as blank and we'll come back to it soon. Now we will be enhancing our column component. So here we'll be opening up our column.jsx, and we are going to import the droppable component from React Beautiful D&D. Once we have added that, the next thing that we need to do is wrap our task list component inside of the droppable. Now a droppable has one required property, and that's a droppable ID. So here we will be providing that as the column ID. Now if I go over here, just in a container, you'll find the title, and then we have the task list. So this needs to be droppable. So what we'll do is we'll provide this droppable over here, and then we will be closing the droppable just before the container. So here we have our droppable specified, and the task list as well as coming up, and the ID has been provided for the same. For now, let's ignore this children is not a function. Now a droppable utilizes the render props pattern and expects its child to be a function that returns a React component. One reason the render props pattern is used is so that React Beautiful DND does not need to create any DOM nodes for you. You create your components that you want, and React Beautiful DND latches into your existing structure. The first argument to this function is called provided. So here under task list, we'll be providing inner ref as provided.innerref. Provided is an object that serves a few important purposes. A provided object has a property for droppable props. These are props that need to be applied to the component that you want to designate as your droppable. Generally, you will be able to just spread the provided dot droppable props object directly onto your component. The provided object has a property called innerref, which is a function used to supply with DOM node of your component to React Beautiful DND. A styled component has a callback named innerref, which returns the DOM node of the component. We can assign the provided.innerref to this property. The last thing we will need to do for a droppable is to insert a placeholder, and that we will be doing within the task list component provided.placeholder. A placeholder is a React element that is used to increase the available space in a droppable during a drag when it's needed. The placeholder needs to be added as a child of the component that you designate as the droppable. Our droppable is now set up. We are going to move to our task component now and make it draggable. We are going to import the draggable component from React Beautiful DND. So here we have imported the draggable. Now I'm going to wrap our container component inside of a draggable component. So this is our container component, and what we'll do is we'll be returning this. So let's wrap it first of all like this, and within this we will be having our draggable. Now draggable will then be closing over here after the container, and now we can just format it a bit. Further, a draggable has two required properties. Firstly, a draggable ID, which we will assign as the task ID. So here we'll provide that. And secondly, it requires an index. We currently not passing an index to our task component. Let's go back to our column component and do that. So here let's have the index over here. Our column component is currently mapping over the tasks property and returning a task component. The second argument to a map function is the index of the item in the array. We can simply pass this index onto our task component. So here what we'll do is we'll go back to our column component, and over here if you observe closely, after the droppable properties, we have this map method, this.props.task.map, and here we are just passing task. Now we will be actually including task and index together. So once we have updated this, we will have to encapsulate it within this bracket. So here we have our task, and now this task will also have one more attribute, and we'll be calling it as index. So here we'll be providing that value as index, and once that's done we'll be closing it over here. So now our task component has this index, and the same is being passed over here. As you can see, a draggable expects its child to be a function. The first argument to this function is a provided object, which works in a very similar way to the droppable provided object we have previously seen. So here the draggable that we have to have some provided ID, and to do that we'll be making some changes over here. So we'll be providing the provided over here for the draggable as well. So we have the provided over here, and then we will be closing it over here. Now, here we have the container. The provided object has a property called draggable props. These props need to be applied to the component that we want to move around in response to a user input. The provided object also has another property called drag handle props. These are the props that need to be applied to the part of the component that we want to use to be able to control the entire component. So we will be providing these two to our container over here, and we'll again provide the inner ref as well. You can use this to drag a large item by just a small part of it. For our application, we want the whole task to be draggable. We are going to apply these props to the same element as with our droppable. We also need to provide a ref for our draggable, and that's where we have inner ref coming in. Now let's take a look at our application. We can now drag items around, as you can see over here. Couple of things that we have to add as well is that we also need to make use of the ref equals provided dot inner ref in both column as well as task. So here we have droppable. So for droppable, we have to add ref provided inner ref, and for draggable as well, we have to provide this ref provided dot inner ref. Once we do that, we have this drag drop feature coming in. But if you see, we still have this issue with items when dragged. They are kind of showing what's behind them. So there's some kind of overlap which we should be getting rid of. So what we need to do is, let's go ahead and add some background color. So here in our task, we'll be adding a background color over here as white. And now if I go ahead and see this, it's working properly. The effect is nice. But one thing that you will notice over here is that it's not preserving the sorted order. So the moment I'm leaving it, it's not preserving it. So if I move cooked dinner all the way to second place, you can see that it's coming all the way down. So in the next one, we'll explore how we can persist this.